Who is that guy?
New CEO. Heard he's 31.
Walks like an FBI agent chasing someone.
Yeah, but no one dares to breathe loud when he passes by.
I sat behind the clear glass wall of my small corner office on the 16th floor, far enough not to get dragged into the chaotic energy of the marketing team, but not close enough to have real influence. A neutral spot where you're easy to overlook, but perfectly positioned to observe everything. This morning, the atmosphere inside the headquarters of Lantern and Westwood Inc. in downtown Chicago wasn't normal. Every keystroke sounded like it was being filtered through fog. Every conversation suddenly hushed, like there was a hidden mic recording each word. And then, he appeared. Not in a newsletter or via email like usual. He physically showed up, with the sound of leather shoes echoing off polished tile like a heartbeat in the middle of an anxiety spike. Adam Graves, the new chief executive officer, the first Gen Z CEO the company had ever had. He didn't walk in, he occupied space. Every step, every movement, every glance shrank the room a little. Hair cropped high and tight, tailored suit with not a wrinkle out of place, non-prescription glasses worn purely for the aesthetic, and eyes cold as a Michigan winter. He didn't smile at the receptionist, didn't nod at the security guard, didn't make eye contact with anyone. And I realized this wasn't the kind of man who came to lead. He came to cut. Change never announces itself with trumpets. It creeps in like a cloud, quiet but thick. And when Adam appeared, I saw those clouds slithering up from the main lobby, weaving through the cultural structure of a company I once believed was solid, unshakable. I'd been here 16 years. I knew the scent of a coming storm when it started leaking through the cracks. The way he opened the conference room door, no knock, no pause, made the entire project team freeze. No one reacted in time. Adam simply stood there, as if time and space had paused, waiting for his permission to resume. "Carry on," he said, voice low, each word precise. That tone, what TikTok might call CEO energy, was enough to make the most talkative people stumble. Mid-level managers, the same ones who wrote KPIs like poetry, suddenly lost their clarity. He didn't threaten, he simply existed, and that was enough. That afternoon, as I poured tea in the break room, a place where the post-ambition survivors gathered, no one spoke loudly. Someone tried to joke, "This Adam guy looks like he just walked out of an Apple recruitment video." But no one actually laughed. We all knew what that meant. A leadership transition memo had arrived the week before with syrupy language like renewed vision, strategic modernization, and sustainable development. But anyone who'd survived more than 2 CEOs understood that was corporate code for heads are gonna roll, just not ours. What made this time different? The speed, the certainty, the sensation of being scanned whenever he walked past, like you were a barcode being evaluated for shelf life. Late in the day, I bumped into Adam in the hallway. Not on purpose. I'd just submitted the quarterly report, the one I knew he'd quote in his Friday address. I held the document in my hand. We made eye contact for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for me to realize he didn't see me. He looked at my employee badge, then kept walking. No eye contact, no nod, no question. As if I were nothing more than a legacy line of code, kept if functional, deleted if not. I returned to my office, shut the door, and stared out through the window, where city towers began lighting up beneath a gray evening sky. The feeling hit with clarity, like a bell tolling at dusk. The storm is coming. No one said anything, but everything screamed it. Chairs being pulled a little quieter than usual. Managers avoiding eye contact. Ellen, the ever-sparkling head of HR, looked like she'd just swallowed an ice cube. I sipped my tea and wrote a single line in my notebook. Don't get swept up. Observe. Remember. Wait. At a place like Lantern and Westwood, the survivors weren't the best. They were the ones who knew when to stay silent and when to act. 3 days after Adam Graves set foot in the Lantern and Westwood headquarters, the 16th floor was no longer the 16th floor I used to know. The once familiar hallways now carried the scent of pressure. Every footstep echoed like a countdown. Every slammed door no longer felt random. It was the period at the end of someone's sentence. There were no official emails, no bulletin announcements, just desks gradually emptied, family photos hastily taken down, and coffee mugs still warm, left behind in drawers. The ones who used to lead planning, project, and tech support departments vanished, quietly, cleanly, as if they had never existed. We started jokingly calling ourselves the surviving ghosts. A bit of dark humor, but also a form of self-soothing, because everyone knew if you hadn't been called into Room B yet, it was only yet, not never. Adam didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to slam fists or issue ultimatums. Instead, he operated with a coldness like bug-free Python code, fast, precise, emotionless. The restructuring meetings happened at breakneck speed. Some ran simultaneously. Meeting rooms were always full. People said he didn't sleep, only drank black espresso, and typed notes on his tablet like he was rewriting the fate of each department. I noticed it during a Thursday morning meeting, where I was invited to silently observe the Internal Admin Optimization Plan, a title that sounded both harmless and threatening. The session was led by a young woman named Alyssa, recently recruited from a startup in Austin. Her LinkedIn profile gleamed process innovator, change leader, next-gen strategist. But when I asked her about the order handling process with our partner in Shanghai, she had to ask 3 times to grasp the logic. And even then, she got it wrong. Adam sat at the head of the table, listening and jotting things down, but occasionally I caught his eyes scanning me, not out of curiosity, more like he was calculating, how much longer is this one useful? I couldn't blame him. People like Adam are trained not to waste time. They don't see humans as individuals, but as resources, either extractable or expendable. To them, optimization means cutting anything that doesn't show clear ROI within 3 months. But here's the problem. The soul of a company doesn't live in Excel sheets. It lives in the midnight crisis calls, the emails written with lived experience, the off-the-record conversations that kept partner trust from cracking. And those things Adam didn't understand, or worse, didn't want to understand. I started noticing the small signs. My old friend Dale from legal, the one who always cracked jokes in the elevator, disappeared without a word. Christine from creative, the one who'd built the entire marketing campaign for the Lumen Plus line, was replaced by an AI-powered creative team no one really knew what to do with. One afternoon, walking past Meeting Room K, I heard Adam's voice, soft but firm. I want results, not memorabilia. We can't row this boat with old medals. That sentence sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't logically wrong, but it revealed how people forget what holds an organization together. Memory, loyalty, the invisible threads between human beings. In the days that followed, I worked like I was walking on thin ice. Reports on time. No emotion shown. Always kept an urgent file open on my screen in case someone passed by. And most importantly, I listened, recorded. Every name, every call, every shift. Part of me wanted to quit, but the other part, the one that had survived 3 previous CEOs, whispered, "Don't let them see you breathing hard. Act like this is normal." Because in times of transition, silence is a survival skill. And I, more than anyone, knew that the things left untouched in a system sometimes become the very thing that brings it down. It finally came. The verdict in words, cold and precise like a scalpel slicing straight through the ego. Friday, 10:15 a.m. My screen blinked with a simple notification. Meeting request, Adam Graves, 10:30 a.m. Room B, no agenda. No subject line, no content. That was enough. I sat still for a few seconds, hearing my heartbeat pound like war drums, but only for a moment. Then I stood up, lightly adjusted my blazer, straightened my collar, and walked as if I were the one leading the upcoming meeting. The door to Room B opened. No greeting. Adam was already seated at the head of the table, hand resting on a gray folder like it was the only weapon he needed. To his right sat Ellen, head of HR, her face pale, eyes clearly avoiding contact at all costs. "Margaret, thank you for coming." Adam's voice was even-toned, not too cold, not warm either. The voice of someone who had said this at least 10 times that week. I sat down, resting my hands lightly on the table, revealing nothing, performing nothing. I was too used to being skimmed like an old memo. "We've reviewed the entire internal structure over the past 2 weeks," Adam began, opening the folder I knew had been printed the night before, "and after careful consideration, we believe some current functions no longer align with our new direction." I didn't flinch, didn't ask, didn't react. He continued, "Your role, while valuable in the past, is no longer necessary. We've partnered with an external firm in Singapore to handle language needs and international partnerships." I looked over at Ellen. She gently slid an envelope onto the table. Beige, not thick, didn't need to be. 2 months' salary plus all unused vacation days. Very fair. Ellen said softly, her voice barely making it out of her own throat. Adam smiled faintly. A smile like those AI-generated ones, perfectly formed, utterly soulless. "I know this may be difficult, but innovation always comes with sacrifice," he said. "I hope you understand this isn't personal." I looked straight into his eyes, then down at the untouched envelope. "I'm not angry," I said, my voice low, calm, but clear enough that Ellen looked up. "I'm just sad." Adam frowned slightly. Maybe he thought I'd react dramatically, cry, beg, lash out. But I gave him nothing. "I'm sad you thought 16 years could be replaced by a service contract. Sad you never asked what I actually did. You just assumed it wasn't needed." I stood up, adjusted my sleeve. Ellen still hadn't exhaled. "Good luck on Monday," I said, turning to leave. Adam squinted. "Why Monday?" I simply smiled. No reply. Leaving the meeting room, I walked past coworkers who couldn't look me in the eye. Some pressed their lips together. Some lowered their heads. But I didn't resent them. Here, survival was a skill, and silence was armor. When I stepped out of the main lobby, it had started to rain. Not heavy, but cold. Each drop fell with weight, like punctuation to an ending. I didn't open an umbrella. I just walked straight to the parking lot, sat in the driver's seat, and turned on the heater. My eyes weren't wet, but my chest felt heavy, as though I had just buried a part of my youth. And then, unexpectedly, a strange feeling crept in. Not pain, not defeat. A quiet satisfaction, like someone who had long known the ending and accepted it as a necessary step in a much longer journey. That night, while cleaning out my home office, I stumbled upon documents, emails, and exchanges with Chinese partners from over a decade. Some were written at midnight to rescue a sinking contract. Others ended with little jokes to keep fragile relationships alive. They called me translator, but I knew I was the keeper of the bridge between two worlds. On Sunday, I updated my resume. Not out of fear, but because it was time to place myself somewhere truly worthy. Adam may have deleted my name from the employee roster, but he hadn't erased what mattered most: the respect I had built in the hearts of those who truly understood the value of lasting relationships. And Monday would be the day he learned his first real lesson. Monday morning, the city of Chicago was covered in a thin layer of fog. The skyscrapers looked as if they were still asleep, not yet fully awake. But on the 15th floor of Lantern and Westwood, the atmosphere was entirely different. Tense, like a guitar string wound too tight, just waiting to snap. 10 a.m. The large conference room had been prepared early. Coffee brewed, slides preloaded on the LED screen, chairs arranged precisely like a stage awaiting a major performance. Adam Graves sat at the head of the table, navy suit spotless, his eyes still carrying that signature confidence. But if you looked closely, you'd see. Beneath that mask was a faint trace of unease, like a shadow at high noon. Beside him were two rising stars he'd personally recruited: Ryan, head of international strategy, and Camilla, an organizational culture specialist. They nodded rapidly, smiled at the right times, and no one noticed Camilla's hands had been sweaty since minute 3. On the schedule was a meeting with Gold Harbor Tech, a partner from Shanghai, the company's primary client accounting for nearly 30% of international contract value. A 3-year renewal, if successful, would strengthen Adam's standing with the board. If it failed, he knew that wasn't an option. The door opened. The Gold Harbor delegation entered, Vice President Mr. Liu leading, flanked by 2 assistants. They didn't shake hands too firmly, didn't speak much. Mr. Liu's gaze swept across the room like a data scanner. Not cold, not friendly. Just evaluating. "We are honored to welcome you." Adam stood up, shaking each hand with a standard smile that looked like it came from a copy-paste template. We've prepared a new roadmap for partnership, full of potential. They sat down. The meeting began. Adam launched the first slide. Keywords appeared: agility, innovation, scalable synergy. He spoke like reciting a script. With this new model, we aim to optimize costs, accelerate digitization, and expand cross-border operational capacity. Mr. Liu didn't interrupt, just nodded slightly, but his eyes darkened bit by bit. Slide 3. Adam went on and on about AI-based localization strategy, about eliminating traditional links that are no longer efficient. In one corner of the slide, a small line read, "Language and partner services will be handled by a partner agency in Singapore." Only then did Mr. Liu look up. "Excuse me," he said in slow but firm English. "We would like to ask, where is Ms. Margaret Lane now?" The room went dead silent. Camilla looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Adam. Adam paused for just a beat. "She is no longer with us," Adam answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "We've streamlined our structure to improve efficiency and eliminate redundancy." Mr. Liu didn't nod, didn't smile. He simply stared directly at Adam, not angry, but with something in his eyes that made the air feel thick. "Ms. Lane was not just a translator," he said slowly. "She was the bridge, the one who understood culture, customs, the layered meanings behind every clause. Without her, we are not sure this new draft can proceed." Adam tried to recover. "I believe our new team is very dynamic and—" "Not dynamic," Mr. Liu cut in, showing a hint of irritation for the first time. "Uninformed, disrespectful. We value consistency, and Ms. Lane was that consistency." He stood up, as if not willing to waste another minute. "We will reconsider the entire partnership. For now, we will end the meeting here." The three members of Gold Harbor rose in unison. No one looked back. No handshakes. Only the sound of their heels echoing on the floor like a countdown to collapse. The door closed, and Adam Graves sat motionless. No one spoke for 30 seconds. Camilla lowered her gaze. Ryan pretended to check his phone. Adam kept staring at the door, as if willing them to return. But he knew. They wouldn't. 10 minutes later, the internal newsletter hadn't even updated before rumors spread across the office. Gold Harbor canceled negotiations. Something happened in the meeting room. Adam got shut down face to face. Across the city, I sat in my new office at Hansen and Frey Consultants. Just signed off an email to a Japanese partner, sipping ginger tea. No need to intervene, no need to retaliate. I just sat there, fully aware that the door Adam once shut in my face was the very threshold leading him into darkness. And darkness never stops at just one name. 2 days after the disastrous failure with Gold Harbor Tech, I received the first call. Not from Ellen, who likely still didn't dare face me, but from a familiar old internal number. External 332, Executive Office. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. "Margaret?" "It's Adam." His voice sounded slightly off, trying to sound normal, but the urgency leaked through the final syllables. "I was thinking, maybe we should meet, talk, see if there's a chance to collaborate again." I leaned back in my chair, eyes looking out the window of my current office. Hansen and Frey, a quiet space with minimalist design and a leadership team that actually knew how to listen. "Collaborate?" I repeated, tone as indifferent as if I were asking about the weather. "Yes," Adam said faster. "I mean, no official title or anything, just support, consulting, on a flexible basis. I believe we can still do something good." I stayed silent, letting him wander a little further into that thin hope. Then I said, "All right, meet me at my office, 9 a.m. tomorrow." I hung up without giving him a chance to respond. The next morning, Adam showed up 10 minutes late, as usual, still wearing the expensive watch on his wrist, though now it looked less like a symbol of success and more like a shackle tightening around him. "Margaret," he shook my hand with a faint smile. "Thank you for your time." I invited him into the smaller meeting room, a private but not cozy space, exactly the kind of atmosphere I wanted him to feel. Adam started with excuses that sounded carefully rehearsed. "We've had a few hiccups, some errors during the transition phase. No disrespect intended. I believe with your experience we could—" "You didn't call me miss when you fired me?" I cut him off. And now you need me to fix what you shattered with your own hands? He paused. 1 second, then tried to smile. That's not what I meant, Margaret. I believe in rebuilding from the ground up, but you're not rebuilding, I interrupted again. You're just trying to plaster over a foundation that's already cracked. This time, he fell completely silent. I leaned forward slightly, voice steady. If you need me back, I won't refuse. But it will be on my terms. Adam frowned. Terms? I nodded. First, I don't consult anonymously. If I fix this, my name is on it. Not for applause, but so people know who truly held the company's foundation together. Second, I don't fix mistakes unless the one who made them owns them. You'll stand before the board and admit that firing me was a strategic error. Adam forced a chuckle. I don't think that's necessary. And third, I cut in one last time, this time my eyes no longer soft. I'm not here to help you recover. I'm here to show you that everything you're struggling to hold on to isn't slipping because of a contract. It's because of a person. He looked at me like it was the first time he realized I wasn't the quiet woman in the corner office anymore. He was about to say something, perhaps a rebuttal, maybe a last-ditch negotiation. But I stood up. This meeting is over, Adam. You have my number if you're serious. But if you're just looking for a name to pin your failure on, then I'm not the one. I opened the door, politely motioning for him to leave. Adam stood, his shoulders slightly slumped. You'll regret this, he said, not with anger this time, but like a faint echo from a crumbling ego. I smiled softly. Not bitter, not cold, just the smile of someone who knows the truth. No, I replied. You will. And I closed the door behind him. Not out of anger, but because it was time to end the first chapter of the collapse he had built with his own hands. The following Monday, I returned to Lantern and Westwood, not as an employee, not as a victim of restructuring. I came back as a hastily signed contract, a short-term consultant, no name in the internal newsletter, no title on the org chart. There was only one thing that made my presence clear: access. Adam Graves didn't know that his trembling signature on Friday, pressed by the board and shareholders, had opened the final door for me to walk back in not to rebuild, but to dismantle brick by brick. I didn't need the spotlight. I only needed internal access and the blind arrogance of a man who had never considered that an outdated woman might be the only one who knew how to keep this company from collapsing. That afternoon, I logged into the CRM system, the place that held all partner relationships, client accounts, transaction histories, and negotiation records. I didn't delete anything. I didn't edit anything. I simply sent 3 quiet messages. One to Mr. Liu, Gold Harbor, one to Ms. Tanaka, Regional Director of Mitsuno Robotics in Japan, and one to Mr. Gabriel Costa, North American representative of Alvinia Foods, a notoriously difficult client who once told me I was the only person in L&W who understood him without a PowerPoint slide. I didn't say much, just an old greeting, a check-in, and a note that I now worked at Hansen and Frey, a firm built on respect and sustainable collaboration. I didn't pitch anything. I didn't sell. But I knew this well. Trust doesn't need marketing. It only needs truth. Wednesday, one of Adam's internal emails got leaked. An urgent update. We are adjusting marketing and partnership budgets due to a few minor complications in the process of renegotiating international contracts. In office speak, a few minor complications means the foundation is cracking. That same day, I received an email from Mitsuno. We'll arrange a preliminary conversation with Hansen and Frey to reassess partnership direction. Short, unadorned. But I knew what it meant. The second domino had fallen, and Adam began to panic. Crisis meetings were scheduled non-stop. The 15th floor conference room stayed lit until nearly midnight. Employees who used to slap each other's backs for surviving the last round of layoffs now whispered in the halls, eyes filled with suspicion. People started re-downloading their resumes, quietly browsing LinkedIn during work hours. I still sat in the familiar glass corner. No one greeted me, and no one dared come close. They didn't know why I was there. But they were beginning to understand. I wasn't the same person. I was the embodiment of everything they once dismissed. By the weekend, I sent out an internal analysis on international partnership risks. No direct accusations, but each line of data hit like a slap across the face of Adam's rushed decisions. I sent it straight to the CFO and CC'd the board representative. I didn't say Adam was wrong. I let the numbers do that. And numbers can't be fired. Friday, an emergency board meeting took place. I wasn't invited. I didn't need to be. I just waited for a call or an email asking me to step back in and assist. But I knew I had done enough, and they would be the ones calling, not me. That evening, I returned to my apartment, brewed a pot of peppermint tea, opened my laptop, and logged into Hansen and Frey's internal system. A new project was about to begin with a logistics company from South Korea, a partner Adam had once ignored because it was a small market. I smiled, because now all those small markets were becoming sharp little blades, cutting away at the vital chords Adam once thought untouchable. I didn't retaliate with anger. I didn't need to scream for justice. I simply let him watch, day by day, as the scariest thing wasn't losing a contract. It was losing the one person who understood the things money can't buy. The final phone call from Adam's office came on Monday morning. At the time, I was in an online meeting with the partnership team at Hansen and Frey, analyzing client engagement strategies for the Northern European market. The phone rang just as I was explaining the psychological cultural factors of the Scandinavian region in commercial contracts. I glanced at the screen, extension 332. Again, I let it go to voicemail. When the meeting ended, I checked the voice message. Adam's voice sounded so tired it almost seemed changed. Margaret, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to see you. I've lost control. I know I was wrong. Maybe we need a new direction, a different start. Can we talk? He didn't say sorry for firing me, didn't admit to failure, but from the way his voice cracked in the pauses, I knew. The man who once believed himself untouchable was now drowning in the ruins he had created. I agreed to meet, not because he deserved a second chance, but because I needed to see the ending with my own eyes, to close the chapter completely. The meeting took place in the conference room on the 12th floor, the same place where new strategy launch parties were once held with champagne and golden lighting. Now, the dim fluorescent lights made the space feel like an abandoned hospital. Adam was already seated, shirt wrinkled, chin unshaven. He stood when he saw me, trying to remain polite, but I saw the slight tremble in his hand. Margaret, he said, and for the first time his voice carried no familiar confidence, only a last sliver of belief in something not yet completely collapsed. I sat down, said nothing. Adam took a deep breath. Gold Harbor, cut ties completely. Mitsuno hasn't responded. Costa pulled out investments ahead of schedule. The board is pushing for a restructuring of the executive team. He paused, looking at me like someone clinging to the last lifeline. You did this, he said softly, not as an accusation, but a form of confession. I leaned back, arms crossed. No, Adam, you did this. I just helped everyone see more clearly what you'd already done. He lowered his head, his face at that moment, no longer the young CEO who once walked like the whole building belonged to him, but a lonely, drained man realizing that everything he'd learned at Harvard couldn't save what he had dismissed: people. Will you help me? He asked. Just give me direction. I'll do the rest. I need their trust back. I smiled, a sad smile. Trust isn't something you take back. It's something others choose to give, and they've already made their choice. I stood, picked up my briefcase. Adam, I didn't come here to save you. I came to make sure you understand, once and for all, that what you destroyed wasn't productivity or budget. It was trust. And when trust is shattered, no KPI can patch it back together. I walked out, leaving him alone in that cold, empty room. No more loud footsteps echoing on the tile. No more arrogant glances sweeping across the crowd. Just the silence of a fallen empire. A week later, I read that Adam was officially removed from his executive role by the board. The reason was simply stated in the press: due to strategic mismanagement in global partner relations, resulting in significant financial and reputational damage. No one asked me anything. No one needed to know that I had returned, what I had said, or what I had done. I didn't need the spotlight, just the truth, exposed. That afternoon, I left the Hansen and Frey office later than usual. It was raining again in Chicago, but this time, I didn't walk like a survivor. I walked like someone who had completed a journey of cleansing through sheer clarity and patience. I didn't seek revenge. I simply showed them that the woman they once saw as outdated, easily replaced, was the very person who held the final thread of sustainability. And once that thread was cut, nothing could hold its shape again.